And I did it. I think I've done it, and I think we're live. Hopefully, those people who are watching can actually hear what I'm saying, and I haven't messed up the intro. And hopefully, you couldn't hear what we were saying while that music was playing, and I've got it right. Sunday afternoon debate. And if you're wondering why it's a Sunday afternoon debate, it's because I can't use a calendar and check the dates properly. So I really want to thank the two people who are here today. We have everybody's favourite barman who is sat to this side of me, I hope. It is the sarcastic barman. How are you doing, sir?
Good evening, sir. I'm not bad, thank you. Enjoying some wine. Nice Sunday afternoon. Looking forward to this. It should be an interesting one.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it myself, actually. Because I'm not so sure which way I fall on this, so it should be interesting. Now, we do have a debater for Sarcastic Barman. He's not on camera, and because I haven't got an icon for him, because I'm not Creaky, who's really good, he can knock stuff up dead quick, I've just cut off the blank square from the screen. So he's here, you cannot see him, but his name is DK. Welcome to the channel, DK.
Yeah, hi there, Katz. Thank you for inviting me. I feel like I'm meeting a celebrity. You know, you always have a celebrity you want to meet, and now I'm here on your channel. So thanks for inviting me and letting me discuss ideas.
Well,
it's gonna be interesting, like Dan said. It's gonna be interesting.
Should be. I'm looking forward to it, and I've been called a lot of things in the past, but not a celebrity. So usually I'm called a lot of mean things. But excellent. Right, I'm going to check the old YouTube studio and make sure people can hear us. Which it looks like they can. Oh, Gleam. Let's see who's in the chat before we start again. Say hello to a few people. So we've got the Snark in the chat who wrote the outro song for me and loads more. Go and check out the Snark's channel if you haven't seen it. Christopher Shapley, who's always here. Thank you so much again for being here. Grumpy Old Dude, who we had on in one of my one of the favourite shows that I've done. An interview with a white supremacist. It was former white supremacist. It's called. Check that out. It was really fascinating story that was. We have who another familiar face. We've got Gleam in the chat. Hello, Gleam. How are we doing, buddy? Facty, Ivy Gentry, Gary Io. Oh, I'm just reading out names now. But anyway. Today's debate is on a hot topic, one that obviously we're not going to solve today, but I'm interested in hearing both opinions. It's about the death penalty. Is it necessary? Is it not? Yes, mate.
Sorry, Katz. Sorry, I wanted to just get this in real quick at the beginning so that we can get on with the debate. Any super chats raised, I'll match it and donate it to a mental health charity of your choice. So if you can just name one, and then I can screenshot the donation, and then you can. So yeah, just need to put that out there.
Well, there we go. Well, that's incredibly generous. So if you didn't get that, DK has just said he's going to match any super chats that are placed on the channel today, and if you put in a mental health charity into the super chat, he will donate that. That's incredible. Are there any shout outs you want to give to any charities you know? Since you said that, is there a favourite charity of your choice?
No, I don't really have a favourite one. Just.
Oh, he's gone.
Oh no. Help you with mental issues and things like that. So again, it's just whatever the chat feels, should be highlighted and given some cash and some donations. Then we'll donate to that.
Oh, you're an absolute legend. What a sterling chap you are. Thank you very much. So off we had a virtual arm wrestle, and Sarcastic Barman lost. So he is going to go first with his opening statement. And I'm not going to put a timer on this. It's not going to be a heated debate. It's an exchange of views. Please, in the chat, I'm on the agree to disagree account. If you've got questions, I'm definitely going to take them. But maybe if you wait until maybe 20, 30 minutes from now and then start putting them in the chat, and then I'll read them. Otherwise, I'll miss them. I'm not going to do the community poll tonight because I'm driving the OBS at this side, and without Creaky, I can't do more than one thing at once. You know how useless I am. So leave your questions till later, but we are definitely going to get to them and post them in the chat. So, death penalty. I will leave Sarcastic Barman, whose channel is linked in the description, and DK, his Twitter handle, is linked in the description if you like what you hear from either of those. But I'm going to pass over now to Sarcastic Barman. You can just take it away, mate.
Thank you, I shall. So I want to tell you all a story about 6 men who between them have 165 confirmed murders, but possibly many more. And I believe people of this level have forfeited their right to continue to live. But more than that, I also believe that keeping them locked up for the rest of their lives is also unfair. Someone like Robert Maudsley from the UK, who, though only committed one murder, while a 9-hour-long torture that resulted in the victim's death, he went on to kill a further 3 people while in prison. So since 1983 now, he spends 23 hours a day in a purpose-built cell with a cardboard table and chair, a concrete bed. So it's 23 hours a day in a 5.5 by 4.5 meter room. And when he is taken outside for his 1 hour a day exercise, he was escorted by 6 officers. Or we could look at someone more prolific, like Samuel Little from the USA, who has 60 confirmed victims but has confessed to 93. He was sentenced to 4 life sentences without the possibility of parole in 2014, but died in 2020. So that's 6 years worth of prison. Is that worth 60-odd lives? Or even more? How about Mikhail Popkov from the Soviet Union? 56, Soviet Union. God, I'm showing my age. From Russia. He was a police officer and convicted of 78 murders, but confessed to 83. But not only did he murder his victims, it's how he went about it that is most disturbing. He would dress in his police uniform, luring victims with the promise of a free ride, and then sexually assault them. He killed women with instruments including knives, axes, baseball bats, and screwdrivers, and mutilated their bodies so grotesquely that the Russian media called him the werewolf. He was finally arrested and sentenced to death in 2015 after the DNA of over 3,500 police officers was tested in a bid to help track him down. He'll spend the rest of his life in prison. Now, the question is, does someone like Robert Maudsley or the others deserve to spend the rest of their lives in a little box? Robert Maudsley is asked to be allowed to commit suicide. I mean, after 37 years in a box, it can't be good for your mental health. But isn't prison designed to rehabilitate people? But as he can't ever leave prison, he can't ever be rehabilitated. So is this a form of torture? Is it torture to know you'll be spending the rest of your life surrounded by the same 4 walls with no real human companionship? We wouldn't do this to an animal, but we justify it with a person, all because they've done something wrong. But we'd put a dog down who's attacked a person, but won't lock it up because we say it's cruel. And yet we're subjecting humans to a level of life we don't think seem acceptable for a dog. Now, I'm not saying all crimes or even a single murder require a death sentence, but that a whole life sentence would be better served and more humane with a death sentence, because that's what it is in reality. You won't be paroled, you're not getting released, so why torture someone with that, and why burden an overcrowded prison system with someone who will be there forever? To set an example, well, a report by the UKRI shows that in the UK, 75% of ex-inmates offend within 9 years of release, and 39% within the first 12 months. But Barman, I hear you ask, they won't be murderers, they will be petty thieves. Oh, I think I've lost an entire paragraph somewhere. I'm very sorry. Yeah, I have. I'll skip that bit. Very sorry. So prisons aren't set an example. Murderers are coming out, reoffending, murdering again. For example, George Johnson, who murdered Gerald Homer in 1986 for just £3, inflicting 35 stab wounds using knives and scissors in Wolverhampton. But then he was released in 2006, and 5 years later killed an 89-year-old widow for £25 as she made him a cup of tea. His attack was believed with such force that he caved in her skull. He's 56 and was given a full life sentence, so he will never leave prison this time. But he already has and murdered again, showing that maybe more needs to be taken into account. He's a proven reoffender, a danger to society. He's learned nothing from prison the first time, but with the idea that he could die, change his mind, knowing that if he killed again, he would forfeit not only his freedom, but his life. Human life is important, and society teaches us how bad our action is by punishment it receives. If you're still on the fence, I've got one more story for you. Dr. Petit, who lived with his wife and 2 daughters. On the 23rd of July 2007, 2 men broke into his house, beat Dr. Petit nearly to death with baseball bats, raped his wife, sexually assaulted one of the 11-year-old daughters, then proceeded to strangle his wife, tie his 2 daughters to a bed, douse them in petrol, and while they were still alive, set fire to the house. Multiple murderers and sexual assault. Dr. Petit survived, and both men are serving life sentences, which, as it is in America, is only 15 years each. A sentence surely fitting of their crimes. What message is this setting for society? Thank you, and apologies for my lost blinking paragraph in the middle.
That was superb. You know what? You delivered that like I was listening to a Radio 2 Sunday afternoon documentary style mystery. It was brilliant, mate. Really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. Just before we go over to DK, I do want to thank the Snark and Dib for the super chat. Sir, the Snark says, donate this where you wish. He doesn't have a favourite. And Dib says, matching the super chats for an excellent cause. So there we go. Thank you both. DK, you have someone you said you wanted to say hello to, don't you?
Yeah, my other half. I won't mention the name. I'm sure she's watching. So just saying, hey, is all. That's it. I mean, she woke up early just for this. It's what is it, like 11 o'clock in Texas? So
11. I remember the days when
just
11
hi.
o'clock was early. I remember when thinking getting up at 11 was early, but oh bless. All right, well, hello.
Yeah, me too. I work now, so yeah.
Well, hello, DK's girlfriend. DK, it's your show, mate.
My
Take.
AirPod's at 20%. I'm sure. Sorry, I just want to check my AirPod battery level because it says it's at 20%, but one of them at 41%. So.
That's okay. If you need to plug it in.
How long they last? Yeah, absolutely. So I just do my opening statement here, right? I don't have to retort to.
Yeah, no, just deliver your opening. Yeah, tell me if you want the slides, the PowerPoints, bring it up. Just tell me, and I'll bring them up.
Yeah, I will do. Thank you. So thank you, Catz and Mr. Sarcastic Barman or Dan, for having me on. So I would just like to start by trying to affirm what actually counts as a death penalty, i.e., who gets to decide what actions by an individual counts as. Sorry, I read this on paper and I can't read my writing. What action counts as an action that is punishable by the death penalty? So if we turn to Katz, sorry, forgot your name. So if you could turn to slide 4. So you would see a picture of Emmett Till and his accuser. Now, of course, he whistled at a white woman and then he got sentenced for it. He went to court with an all-white jury. Lots of problems there. Got sentenced to death. And then on her deathbed, she said, he didn't actually do anything to me. I just said what I said just because of the time that it was in. So does that count as a death penalty? I mean, understandably, his death kickstarted the civil rights movement in the US, and that's a good cause, but nobody should die for other people to get equal rights. We should just have equal rights without death, which is very pacifistic of me, I understand, but it's inconsistent. As we will see later on in the show. So in my debate or point of view, I will be comparing, contrasting with the US and the UK, just because that's our biggest ally, or one of, and it allows us to compare and contrast how we handle criminals. Although with this government, maybe it's the same. I will also be looking at how the death penalty is racist in the US, in that it is disproportionately, specifically giving the death penalty to people who kill white men or women or people, rather than giving it to whoever they killed. So we will be looking at that. If you turn to slide 5, I'll actually introduce it. I'm not sure if you can show that.
Yeah, I've got that. Yeah.
Okay. So as you see there, executions by race of victims. If you're a white person who is a victim of a crime, whatever it is, like if it's a sexual assault, if it's a murder, you're more likely to be sentenced. As in, the perpetrator is more likely to be sentenced if they kill a white person than if they kill any other ethnic minority. And on the left-hand side, we've got the same pie chart, whereby it does show that the executions of the race of defendant, now that big dark blue color is black, for black people. So that shows that whilst we know there are more white people in the US than there are other minority groups in the US. You are more likely to be are more likely to get away with the death penalty, as in not receive the death penalty, if you're a white person than if you are a black person. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you, mate.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you. So that in and of itself shows us that that is a race problem right there, and I have no problem in asserting that if we ever brought back the death penalty in the UK, the same thing will be happening, just as Stockman Search has shown us in the UK, down in London. Now, lastly, if you turn to slide 2 there for me, Mr. Katz.
Done.
Thank you very much. So if you give someone the death penalty and then, just like in the Green Mile, they put a hood over your head and they kill you, you can't bring that person back. If they later down the line, you've got new technology and say, actually, you didn't do anything, you cannot bring that person back. So an entire family has lost a wife, husband, they've lost someone, whoever they are, daughter, auntie, uncle, you've lost them because you can't bring back the dead. Now, it's not a deterrent as well. I've seen a lot of people in the UK now say we should have it as a deterrent, namely someone in government who shall not be named. It doesn't deter anyone, because if it did, then the US wouldn't have murders. It's just like the alcohol and weed. If alcohol deterrent and prohibition worked, I don't know if Mr. Barman would be a barman. I don't know. It doesn't. I mean, free the weed. That's my personal opinion. You should free the weed because you can't deter it. People will smoke weed regardless. They will get it all the time. Now, death penalty doesn't always work. It's not always as succinct as people would like you to believe. Angel Diaz's execution took like over a half an hour, and it was an excruciating pain, and his family had to watch him, basically die, and it's not really good. I'm not taking too much time now, just about to finish, but I'm of the position that I don't really want to pay to see people die, and I am paying because I'm paying for prisons through tax, because tit for tat does not equal justice. Thank you for listening, and I hope everything's okay.
Oh, fine.
Brilliant. Let me just see if I can get that off screen. I would like to point out to anybody watching there that what happened was, even without Creaky here, I was able then to put a PowerPoint on the screen and change the slides when asked without getting it wrong. So I don't know what you think about that, Dan, but I reckon I'm getting there. What do you think?
You're getting better. You're definitely getting better.
Getting better.
But considering I don't use OBS, I can't say nothing. I have people for that. Yay to the colon.
I think it's because I'm here as a new beginner and I brought some good luck. So
yeah, I think so. I think you've also created a hashtag, the free the weed. I think that could become a hashtag. I like that. Hashtag free the weed. Not that I have ever smoked weed. It's not something I do, but I like that. Yeah, free the weed. So we're at 5:20. We're probably going to wrap up around about 6:20 tonight. And we've got two really eloquent, polite, civil debaters. So my job should be easy here. What I'm going to do is just monitor the chat and see if I can remember what questions are sent my way. And I'm just going to hand it over to them to have a chat between themselves. So who wants to start?
Well, I've got a nice question for DK. So DK, you mentioned about the poor lad in America who whistled at a woman and then obviously got lynched for it. And that's not what I'm pointing at for a death penalty. I'm looking at more of the whole life order sort of thing. So if you're getting a whole life order, you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison for what you've done. And a whole life order, it means you have to have done things like this. So you have to have murdered 2 or more persons, where each murder involves planning out, abduction, or sexual or sadistic conduct, the murder of a child involving abduction or sexual or sadistic conduct, the murder committed to further religious, political, racial, or ideological causes, a murder committed by a person previously convicted of murder, or the murder of a police officer or prison officer in execution of their duty. So I'm not saying all crimes should be, not even one single murder, I think, should qualify you for a death penalty. But if you're a repeat offender and obviously the prison system isn't working for you for rehabilitation, because I do believe the prison system should be there for rehabilitation. It should show people, no, you've done fucking wrong. You're getting punished for it. You're being locked up. You're serving your time. That's it. But I also believe that spending the rest of your life in a small box, knowing you're going to spend the rest of your life in there, especially if you're 25 and go out and kill 4 people, you can spend the next 65 years in prison. Do you think that's a fair thing for killing those people to spend the rest of your life in prison? And if you were spending 65 years odd in prison, at that point, it wouldn't even become a cost thing, because at that point, it would be cheaper. After 35 years of being in prison, it's actually cheaper for execution. I don't want to get into the money side of it, but as a point, because it costs around £31,000 a year to keep, dollars, we'll go for the American side because that's the one I looked at, to keep someone in prison. So, but cost aside, there has to be a point where you know you're not going to be rehabilitating someone. You can't put them back in society because you've already said you're not going to put them back in society. And yeah, I just wanted to make that point clear.
Okay. So I'm just quickly making notes there. So I was just gonna say, like, the whole rehabilitation, like, not working is, I think, disingenuous, because it works in Scandinavian countries and it's worked for many years. They have open prisons, and I was watching a documentary that I forgot to take their name down. It doesn't, like, they're allowed a lot more freedom, and rehabilitation does actually work within those countries. So it's not that it cannot be done. I think the UK government should just step up, regardless of who's in power. They should just step up and work on rehabilitating these people, so that they don't reoffend. And that, whilst that does cost a lot, it saves money in the long end, because you're not paying them for to be re-prisoned. It's a bit like paying taxes for free healthcare. You're not paying in the long run, but taxes are expensive, but free healthcare. So that's would be I was gonna say whilst you were in your opening debate, but now that we can retort, I just want to say a few things, if that's okay. Or do you want to answer to my first question and then go back? I don't know.
I'll quickly answer that. And yes, I believe there could be probably better things in our prison to help rehabilitate people. But if you look, I've got one fact I've got up here. Between 2000 and 2010, there were some of the prisoners released, 29 people went on to commit further homicide. Sorry, the exact figures were 29 murderers were released, 13 previously committed murders, and 16 committed manslaughter. Those 29 all went on to murder or manslaughter someone again. So considering the UK, we don't have many murderers to start with. If of those people that we are releasing, they're murdering again, it shows that our prison system is broken, and these people have served their life sentences, which in the case of the UK is probably going to be, well, anywhere between 12 and 30 years, depending on the circumstances, the age at the time, how they committed the crime and things like that. And then obviously they've got parole and things they can be looked at afterwards. So these are things we do need to look at. And I do think that for some of them, if they knew, if I feck up again and murder someone, not even feck up, if I'm stupid enough to do something like that, I am forfeit from doing anything else, because these are repeat offenders I'm more looking at than anything else.
Yeah, I understand the repeat offender type thing that they keep going out, but all this shows, and I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself or sounding a bit rude, all it shows is that the two countries, whether that's UK or US, aren't rehabilitating properly. I mean, rehabilitation can work. It's not that it can't. It can. It's just it requires a few more dollars, and people don't want to spend, maybe. I don't know, but that would be my comeback. It's just like, repeat offending is not something that should happen, but it is something that can be stopped and worked on. It's just overhauling the entire system. It's not profitable because a lot of prisons are privately run in the US. They can probably correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, but a lot of them are privately owned. If they're privately owned, then they can't get any money out of it. So judges in the US will lock up and sentence people to death because money. So that's just a US side. I didn't really want to go deep into that. The UK start, like I said, it just shows. You mentioned a UK start in your opening, but that just shows again we can't rehabilitate properly. I just wanted to point out one thing in your opening, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for
or
it.
did you want to?
No, go.
Yeah.
Go
So
for
you
it,
said.
dude, you're all right.
So you said if a dog like bites someone or like harms them, then we like put them down. I think that's the ruling, which is obviously we should not kill animals as well. I'm not just saying we shouldn't kill humans, we shouldn't kill animals either. But I think that statement made by anyone, not just you, I'm just saying that statement in and of itself is a little bit disingenuous if you're not also vegan. That's a whole that can be explained later. But if you cared about animal lives, then you surely care about them throughout their life and not when they just did something wrong. So that's just another thing that I wanted to point on. You can tear me to shreds if you want on that.
No, that's fine. If that's how you feel about the animals and things, I mean, I've got 2 dogs, and I wouldn't dream of letting anyone hurt them. But I will be fair. I'm happy to go and have a nice sheep and have some roast lamb for dinner. I had roast beef today, but I do feel there's a difference between how we treat a pet and they become part of the family. But you know that if that family member of your dog hurts somebody, the line has to be drawn somewhere. You mentioned Scandinavia as a country before. Scandinavia's murder rate is about 1/10 of the UK's, and the UK's is counted as one of a low murder rate in the developed world anyway, because we have like 11 per, oh crap, where did it go? 11 homicides recorded per million population, and Scandinavia has about 1. So we are looking at 10 times the sort of murder here, but it's the reoffending sort of rate. So if you're not having many to start with, I don't know. I just feel like there's got to be a line drawn somewhere. And if you're getting someone who's reoffending, it's got to be taken to that point where saying, no, you've killed twice. You've been locked up for a life-term sentence. You've gone out and within 5 years, you've murdered someone again. It's obviously prison isn't something that's going to help you readjust to society. Because if they do go out and murder again, they're going to be given a whole life sentence and they're going to spend their life in prison. Katz, could I have that picture that I sent before?
Okay, you can have the picture, but what I'm going to have to do is figure out how to get that up. So can you entertain the crowd while I faff about with OBS and try and get it up? Or can you screen share from your end?
I can try. It's my internet I'm just worried about. Continue with screen share. We'll see what comes up. Oh, I need to get the picture up.
I've got a feeling if I do that...
All right, I have the picture up. We'll see if this shares now. Nope. Application window, that one. Is that coming up?
Right, that's coming up, and I don't even think I need to adjust the OBS. So look at that, we got away with it. Crack on, mate.
Yay! So this is a prison cell for America, Supermax prison, where a lot of murderers and things will spend 23 hours a day. And I'll be fair, this one is smaller than the one that the that I mentioned earlier is in. This is 3.5 meters by 2 meters, so 7 foot by 12 foot. He'll spend 23 hours a day in this room. 4-inch window on one side, 4-inch window on the other side. And these are the sort of people who aren't ever being paroled. They're spending the rest of their lives in there. And I do feel like if you're going to torture someone by being in that room, then that's probably not a good thing. But on the same point, there are people who spend their time in these who will be coming out. And yes, I'll fully agree with DK. Prison systems need to be looked at for more rehabilitation, because spending 23 hours a day in that room for, say, 15, 20 years is not going to do your mental health much good. Stop sharing there. And that was my quick point to make there.
Do I need to do anything with OBS now? I don't. Sorry, DK, back to you then, buddy.
Back to me. Okay, thank you. So I hope you don't mind, Dan, sarcastic Barman. So whilst you were talking, I did just quickly. I don't know if this counts as cheating or not, because I looked up your stat. So I don't know.
There's no cheating.
Or
Nothing's cheating.
Yeah,
no,
I didn't
nothing's
want it
cheating.
to like become something. No, I just quickly Googled. So Scandinavia is like a region. I always thought it was a region instead of a country. And Norway has the lowest like level of reoffending criminals once they I'm on Business Insider, so who knows. But they've got the lowest recidivism.
I will point. I didn't. No, go on. No, go on. I'll finish sentence.
I'm gonna say it has one of the lowest recidivism rates in the world at 20%. The US has 76.6% of recidivism. So that just shows that how, if done right, if X is right, then Y is also like, if rehabilitation is done correctly, then there'll be less reoffending.
Yeah. The reason I brought up the points and the percentage I did, though, was to show there possibly is some difference in the mentality to start with, because their offense rates for murder and things are much lower to start with. Does that show some different mentality within their population as well, that they're obviously taking either crime more seriously or murder more seriously to start with? And could this reflect more on a problem within our society itself, where there are more problems deeper than just the prison system?
I mean, I think because I've been like a fun boy of Scandinavia for like since I was like 18. I think in the UK and the US, it's not like there's not a culture of education. The education, like, it starts with education. So if you can educate the people to move a certain direction, as in not kill people because it's bad, then more will happen. So when you have a society that centers on not hurting people or things or living beings, then when it is done, then they can address that issue better. Norway also, because like not everyone's born equally, sometimes,
Wealth disparity and stuff. That's fine. I'm happy with psychology.
in the brain, I think there's a little like link that if it's broken, then it makes you do things that you would never normally do. Not mentalism, just like there's a little switch. I'm not sure of the brain called, but I remember watching a documentary because I don't have a life, and they were saying once that link is broken, then it's very hard to get that person back. But the impossible is possible through rehabilitation. So it just requires lots of psychological analysis, and you've got to pay psychologists and counselors money, and people don't want to do that for whatever reason. Norway's doing it, and they've got the lowest recidivism. Maybe we should learn from them instead of leaving them. So
definitely. I think there's a lot more we can do as a society to prevent the crimes to start with, not just the punishment aspect of it, but making sure there's less of a difference in what's the word I'm looking for? Prospects for people from different backgrounds. So everyone should have the same prospect for jobs, education, a good sense of life that doesn't attract them into the sort of crowds where they might fall into drugs or mental health problems, where they do then fall more into crime. And I think this is something that needs to be addressed in the centre of our community to start with, as well as the prisons and our level of that we give to punishments. But I think they should come in first and then move to more strict punishments for the reoffenders. But I do agree the basis for the society as a whole has to be there first, to make sure that these people have the best opportunities in life they have, so they don't go down these paths. It'd be pointless saying from today we're going to murder everyone who's killed 2 people, because I believe that would be unfair on society as a whole. There has to be a whole process of bringing everything in, bringing everything together, and looking after the smallest member of society to the biggest member of society.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. But going back to my bar chart thing, you don't have to put up the slide unless Dan wants to see it again. But just taking the US, the death penalty or punishment of death penalty and the sentence of a death penalty given to a perpetrator is 100% in my mind racist, because I don't think the police officer who killed George Floyd on purpose is not going to be given a prison sentence. And the police officers who killed Breonna Taylor,
and I
weren't given a death
agree
sentence.
with you.
They were given a new role. They moved office. They didn't get demoted, but they had like an office role instead of beating the streets. Nothing will happen to them. But if it was the other way around, there was a black police officer who went around. She stood up to the racism within her own department and said, my partner killed an innocent person, and wasn't going to side with his argument. And they fired her. They weren't going to pay her pension, got taken away, her money got taken away, her job got taken away, and nothing happened because she was black. So focusing on the US, it's mainly in the US that I've read, although people in London would probably disagree, completely racist. So the death penalty, it would always favor the winners. History is written by the winners, as the saying goes. We're seeing it. George Floyd's killer, he's going to be chilling, and that's not something that should happen. But I still wouldn't give him the death penalty. I would still work with him. Like, we understand why he did that, because that's a whole police institution, and now that they've got a new president, maybe they could work on that. I completely agree with that. I still wouldn't kill them though.
No, and I fully agree with you that racism within courts and within society and within police, whether they want to admit it or not, is a problem. But that's where it comes back to my previous point, that society as a whole needs to become more adaptive and more caring before we can start changing the rules for crimes, because we've got to at least try and make sure that these circumstances that have pushed people towards crimes, or worse, that have made police the sort of people they are in their mindset of committing racial crimes themselves or racial profiling, needs to come out of society. Ideally, I'd love to see a time where your defendant never actually appeared face-to-face in a courtroom, so there was no racial bias being added. It was just defendant X. I believe the same should go for interviews, so that all interviews should be done via a text response or something like that, so there can be no racial or sexist bias added to it. If you don't know who the person is to start with, and all you know is their assigned number for the court case, you can't add racial bias into it. But it's got to come back to society first to fix its mistakes, because these are mistakes within society and within our culture as a whole. And no matter what country you go to, these they linger in the back of certain people's minds that, whether they want to admit it or not, are always going to make that slightly wrong call dependent on people's skin tone, dress, sex. It's problems we need to solve first before we can start doing further things.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, I was just whilst you were speaking, I was paying attention, but I was also thinking. Now, I don't know if you still remember about that guy in New Zealand a few years ago. Was it a few years ago? Was it last year? I don't remember. Where he went around and he shot all those people in the mosque. He went from one mosque to the another mosque to another mosque, and he shot all those people because Muslims are wrong or whatever his belief. I'm not going to reiterate his beliefs
No,
or rephrase them. And I think that was New Zealand is another country that again is just Jacinda Ardern, right? Can just be my prime minister. But they did the right thing. They got the armed police. They had an inquiry into it, and they didn't mention his name. They banned TV people from mentioning his name. Nobody knows who he is. They took down all his materials, and when he went into court, they just allowed the families of the victims to speak. I think they did it right, and there's no reason why we couldn't do it now. So if we do it now, I'm not saying it will happen overnight, but gradually, if we start introducing policies and laws in place whereby those sorts of actions are looked down upon, and we create not a cult, but like a belief or a shared belief system whereby we say, doing XYZ is wrong. You should never do it. But if people do it, then we still have steps in place. We have things in place to help them as well. We don't need to be. I don't believe in, if you take my eye, I'm going to take your eye. An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. That's my personal viewpoint. I don't believe in taking someone's eye because they took mine. Or maybe that could change. I don't have any kids. I don't know if that would change or not. I don't know. Maybe it could. But from my point of view, there's no reason to stop killing people. There's no reason to get rid of the death penalty, introduce an open discussion, an open table whereby we just talk about viewpoints and ideas and what we can do, and at the same time spend a little bit more money on rehabilitation done properly. That would be my ideal instead of killing people.
But how can you rehabilitate someone who's never going to leave prison?
Right. Okay. So, but you can still rehabilitate them. Because the rehabilitation that I think we're getting confused. The rehabilitation that I'm talking about and you're talking about might be different. So the rehabilitation of mine is changing someone's psychology. So let's say there's a killer and he's killed, I don't know, 20 people because of something wrong with him mentally, which there are.
Let's say 161 people like the Oklahoma bomber.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was interjecting. I do apologize. I shouldn't do it. It's the wine. Let's say 161 people fine. Like the Oklahoma bomber.
We could, but it wasn't his.
So there's your number. 160
based on. Sorry. Yeah. So his.
No. Go on.
Guys, I think there's a bit of a lag building up. Sorry, guys. I think there's sometimes whereby that we're using builds up a bit of a lag over time, but it gets gotten rid of if I refresh the page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the debate on standby literally for 10 seconds, and then if I refresh the page and you all refresh the page, it will get rid of the lag because I think that's what's causing us to talk over each other. I just think it's lag. So I go on standby. Are you guys okay just to refresh your page, and I'll do the same here?
Yeah, I'll refresh them while I'm doing it. Go for a wee.
Brilliant.
Okay, I'll do it now.
And then that should be it, yeah. By the way, I'm not sponsored by Whereby, but it's a great free little program. But it does build up a lag. when you've been going for quite some time. Are you there, DK? Oh heck! Don't leave me on my own. Let's have a look and see who's in.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, buddy. I can hear you. You're back.
Okay.
You're back. Yeah, I just think the lag was building up, and it was. I don't think anyone was intentionally interrupting. I just sometimes it happens with whereby I use it for tutoring kids and stuff when I'm doing online tutoring. I get the same after about an hour. It just builds up. So hopefully the fact we've refreshed will change that. Let's see who's in the chat. I'm going to look at some questions here. Adrian Clark says he's just done a quick Google, and in Nuneaton alone, from January to May, 34 people were jailed for crimes such as murder, rape, and manslaughter. So I think that's in reference to before, but I'll bring that up with Sarcastic Barman in the question section later. Okay, Barman, you back?
I am.
Right, cool. I think that should be the lag sorted out. So apologies for you guys for that. Crack on whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I think Dan was mentioning the Timothy McVeigh, Oklahoma bomber. I think his motives were against the government to take over. Sorry, go ahead.
Not Timothy McVeigh, because he was executed. His co-conspirator Terry Nichols, who wasn't. So it was more that he wasn't executed because at the trial, the jury and things thought he was remorseful for his actions, and there was the possibility that he was leaving the conspiracy the day of the bombing or the week of the bombing. He was going to say, no, I don't want to do this anymore. But he made no actions to obviously try and stop it. So he was still responsible for the death of those 160 civilians plus 8 police officers, I believe, or federal agents or whatever. So he's obviously now serving 161 life sentences without the possibility of parole in a supermax prison in the same sort of cell I showed before. So he's obviously remorseful. He obviously knows he's done wrong, but you're still happy to lock him up for the rest of his life for 23 hours a day in a small room.
Oh, I'm not happy with that, but that's not the only type of prison they can send him to.
Obviously not. But
no. What I'm saying is, I think that's another aspect of I'm not saying crime shouldn't be punished. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if I go to the shop and I take a sweet that costs £1 and I put it in my pocket and I don't give the shopkeeper £1, I should be punished for that. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying I shouldn't be. I'm not saying that we should be all caring, loving, and be like, you did a mistake, it doesn't matter. That's not my point. My point is, even I will concede to the fact that even if they have to be in prison for the rest of their life, like Terry Nichols that you mentioned, we don't have to treat him like garbage and keep him in a dark room with nothing there for 23 hours a day, because then he'll just probably kill himself as well, because that leads to PTSD. So that's another aspect whereby you could just work on not treating people harmfully, I guess, for lack of a better word. We can address that issue as well. So we don't need to kill him.
No. So that brings me back to the point in my open statement that human life is important and society teaches how bad our actions are by the punishment it receives. But what punishment does killing 161 people justify? Because you're saying you don't want him locked in a small room. So do you want him living comfortably after killing 160 odd people?
Comfortably would be freedom, as in you can go outside of a prison. And I never said that he should be outside of a prison.
That's fine.
But what I'm saying... Sorry, go ahead.
No, go on.
What I was saying, or what I meant to say, is instead of still, if I was the judge, which I'm not, but if I was, let's say, my thing would be, you can't keep him in a dark room for 23 hours a day. That's inhumane. That's literally torture. And whether or not he deserves it is a judgment call, insofar as I think that's subjective to each person and how they feel. How I feel subjective to me, I wouldn't I wouldn't say you can leave the prison, and I wouldn't say you are allowed a lot of time outside of your cell, and or undeterred amount of cell. You can have as much time as you like. He should be in a cell because he's killed a lot of people, and he should face, the punishment as the law decides. But the law shouldn't decide, we're going to torture you and excruciate you and then kill you, because before they kill you in the US, they lock you in that prison cell as well. So if you're going to, so why not get rid of the death penalty, get rid of the small room, or even keep the small room, but allow more hours for him or her to be outside, and then he can learn the action of his ways. I'm not saying he's excused, and he should not be, but we should still show love to that. Show love to thy enemy, as I think it was Jesus, but I don't really want to misquote anyone.
That's fine.
But that's just the way I've always been. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, and I should then start sentence people to death.
Well, I do agree with you that people do spend too long on death row. Lester Bower spent 32 years waiting on death row for his execution after appeal and appeal and appeal and appeal and appeal, because the government helps fund the appeal process for these people on death row. They're appointed 2 lawyers at their trial if they're going for a death penalty. The jury selection is extra stringent on a murder trial that involves a death penalty, to try and work out the problems that we know are there in society. And I don't think it's enough. I think the problems are still there in society, even with all the extra measures they are taking. Hence your point earlier about people who face the death penalty and people who are in prison for murder and things is higher in minority groupings, and fully agree with you there. But if you have a prisoner that's already remorseful, that knows his actions are wrong, what sort of punishment can you give him that would progress society in a way that people can see this is wrong? If you go out and kill over 150 people and the state is going to look after you, feed you, clothe you, keep you warm, but then at the same point isn't doing that for ex-soldiers in our country and in America, what sort of precedent does that set for people? And I do believe most of this does come back to the points that you and I both made, that society is the problem to start with, and we have to look at society first. But what level of punishment would you deem acceptable for that sort of murder? We're going to say yes, locking up, but what levels of restrictions should apply in prisons? Because you're saying you don't want them locked in a room all the time because that's torture, but then they've also killed 150 people. You want them to have some freedoms to go outside and interact with other people, but then they're getting human interaction. They're forming their own sort of mini society in prison, which we know doesn't help rehabilitate people, because people who commit murders serve a sentence and will have gone out and committed murders again. So how do we move things in a way that is acceptable, that the prisoners know they're committing wrong and don't want to do wrong again, but at the same point not treat them as cattle in a way and just make them live in a shit life that makes them not want to be alive? And because the person I mentioned in my opening debate who tortured someone, then went to prison, he wants to commit suicide. And after 37 years of living in a box, bigger than the boxes I showed before, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I mean, I can agree with you insofar as I think we both agree that it's a society role. Like just on your ex-soldiers, I love when people bring up ex-soldiers. Like regardless of what the issue is, nobody cares about ex-soldiers until a position they deeply are against, like immigration. I know I'm going off on a tangent again, right back on tangent.
No, that's fine. Go on the tangent.
Just because... I've had so many debates where people are like, yeah, why are we feeding immigrants when we can feed ex-soldiers? And I'm like, great. When did you feed an ex-soldier, and when did you give them money when you saw them in the street? And then they shut up and then they don't talk to me and I don't have any friends. But I think that's we both agree. That's a society that needs overhauling. We need to overhaul our society. We need to come together, and we basically need to stop being such whiny little so and so's. I think so. You said that. I didn't say that. But it was. I think that's where the crux of the issue is. So I fully agree with you there. And I was gonna say something about a woman in prison, but I forgot. But I still don't think killing them would be. There's, I think once, because we pay taxes, or at least I do, and I'm not Jimmy Carr. My taxes would then, if we introduced a death penalty, my taxes paid for that death penalty. So I'm not comfortable morally and ethically to be knowing or to be in the know that my money has killed someone, especially if later down the line it comes out like they were innocent. That would haunt me forever. That's just me speaking. I would just be like that. Like that, I want to go live in a hut in a forest with my own river, my own coffee machine, and a nice book, right? Because I don't think I could handle that. I don't think that we should start. We should start looking after everybody, but that's an ideal. But there's no reason why we can't work towards it. And yes, there will always be outliers. There will always be a few bad apples in a bunch. And I wouldn't, criminalize everybody, because what happens when you criminalize everybody? So, like, I'm up from a minority background. Now, my background gets blamed for everything in the UK. Whatever it is, right? It's one of us. He's brown. He's living at home with his parents, and his people killed our people, so we're gonna kill him. I don't think we should do that. I don't think, like, a lot of people have called for the death penalty, but it was never a death penalty. At least this is what I've noticed. A lot of people have called for the death penalty, but a lot of those people have never called for the death penalty before 7/7. Before 7/7 in the UK, the idea of introducing the death penalty was crazy. It's just like, you're dumb. Like, don't be an idiot. You might as well be a flat earther, right? You're just a fool. But then after this is what I've seen, and I'm old enough to know this now. I feel really old, but I'm only 30 or 28. I've seen the rise of hatred and the rise of reintroducing the death penalty after the 7/7, just so that they could kill all those brown folk. And I don't feel comfortable in introducing that back into the UK.
Guys, I think...
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, you're right. I'm going to say, so far, you've both been absolutely brilliant. And you know what? When you get two intelligent, sensible, articulate people on, the show becomes so easy. I've had absolutely nothing to do here, and it's been absolutely brilliant. So can I just thank you both for being, again, amazing. We've had loads and loads and loads and loads of questions from the chat, though. And Crafty Keeler, who, if you're not subscribed to Crafty Keeler, go and subscribe to Crafty Keeler. She's in the chat. She's brilliant. She's been collecting a lot of questions. I know it's going to take some time to get through with them. So what I was going to say is, while I just say hello to some people in the chat, do you want to maybe think of a closing 2-minute kind of summary, for what you want to say, and then we'll get to the questions? How does that sound?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I'm up for that. Yeah.
Right. Well, I'll just give you a quick 2 minutes. We'll just have a look in the chat and see. Having said that, I think most of the people who've tagged in the chat have been tagging questions. Thank you, Facty, for sending me the email address that we asked for. Thank you, Crafty Keeler, for collecting the questions. Is there anything out there that isn't directed to you two? See, this is where Creaky's really good and I'm rubbish. I've said to you guys, right, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to think of something. And I'm instantly lost. I don't know what to say. But when I watch Creaky on a Sunday night, he can spin like a whole hour and a half, 2-hour live stream just on his own, and it's really entertaining. And I'm out of things to say.
Crap if you want.
I'm out of stuff to say already. How good is that? Yeah, I haven't got a clue. So you don't get your 2 minutes. Who wants to go first on the summing up?
I started on the debate. So DK, I'll let you go first on the wind up.
Okay, DK,
yeah.
you got 2 minutes all to yourself, mate. Off you go.
I'll try to be as fast. So just as a closing argument, I admit the death penalty is not a system that is meant to be, like I said, an eye for an eye, and just to set a punishment for an unjust action. And I can see that it is cruel and everything, and it has its ups and downs. But like I said, it doesn't serve as a deterrent. It doesn't always work, as Angel Diaz is in my opening comment. If you Googled him, you should Google his death penalty. It doesn't always work, and there has to be law and order to keep a society in balance. But the death penalty, I don't think it will ever work. It will not contribute to anything apart from killing someone who has killed someone. And I know you said that's not what you meant. You meant a whole life order, so murder, like multiple murders, sadistic conduct, and torture and sexual abuse. But I still don't think it would stop any of those things. It will still happen. So I don't think we should have not a tyrannical government, but I don't think we should have a government in place that feels comfortable in allowing death and torture to be paid at taxpayers' expense. So that was my quick 2 minutes.
Okay, sarcastic barman, off you go, sir.
So an eye for an eye will never work, but if you're taking multiple eyes, I think to take one eye would sort of be fair in the very twisted sense that entire saying makes up. If you're the sort of person who's going to go out and kill a shed load of people, and as we know, that's equivalent to half a metric shit ton, that's not a good thing. And as much as we as a society would like to help you, there are certain people that are beyond help, rehabilitation, and they lack the ability to be reintegrated to society. And prisons as a whole are horrible at reintegrating people. But I do feel like locking someone up for the rest of their lives, them knowing, no matter the circumstances of their prison cell, it's still going to be a cell to them, that they know they're never going to get out. They know they're never going to have a proper relationship. They might never have children and a full life once again, that they are going to die inside. Their mind is going to twist, no matter how much we would like to prevent that. And I feel like in some circumstances, and some, not all, I do feel like a more fitting punishment and more humane would be to have them put to sleep, basically, in a humane as way as possible. Things where injections go wrong, electric chairs go wrong, but we do know of methods that kill people. Gassing chambers tend to work a lot better, but they are more expensive. And this shouldn't be a cost issue. This should be a way to put someone out of their suffering, not only mentally, but to give people who have had the trauma of losing a loved one imposed upon them some sort of full stop end to that mentalness inside, where they know the person that has murdered, say, their wife or their children, is sitting in a prison cell, being fed, being looked after, while the other person's life might be going down the drain because of the turmoil it's playing in their head. But yes, I fully agree with DK. Society has a huge role to play in all of this, and society as a whole has to progress more. That racism, social profiling, sexism, and things like that don't play a role in our crimes and judgment and things like that. We have to come to a point where we can treat everyone equally. We look after everyone in society, but the punishment for cocking up in society has to be there.
Fantastic. Yeah. So, Crafty Keeler in the chat has been collecting the questions. She's been doing a great job. She's been collecting the questions that you guys have been asking. So the ones that I'm going to take, first of all, are from Crafty, because they're ones that have been asked since the beginning of the stream. And then once Crafty's out of questions, I'll start taking new ones. So let's just wait for Crafty to drop a question so you guys can drop a knowledge bomb. Go on, DK.
Sorry, just quickly mentioning, just let me know how much is raised in super chats, and then I can donate that. I'll screenshot the donation and I'll tweet you, just so that it's open and nobody knows, nobody thinks that I'm just like chatting shit.
DK, you're a legend. For a reminder, anyone who missed the beginning of the stream, DK is a real gentleman. He said that anything that is raised on super chats tonight, he's going to match the amount and he's going to donate it to mental health charity of your choice. So if you have a mental health charity that you want, if you tag it into the super chat, and if you don't have one, then he will choose one. So you're an absolute legend. Crafty Keeler. Oh my word! We have one from the sarcastic barman, who is on the stream right now. So either that or someone's hacked your account, sarcastic barman. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the Mind charity then before we go to the questions?
Mind mental health charity, support there for people who need that. For some people who might know, my brother took his own life, and it'd be nice to have more charities doing more stuff out there for people who are suffering with mental problems to get support and things that they need in a way that if they're too worried to go to their family and friends, something out there for them.
I don't mind matching that, absolutely. I'll match all forward. I'll just say this: any payments now made, they all go to Mind. So everything is now going to Mind, and the charity has now been chosen. Just because.
Cool. DK and Catz, when we get a full total, I'll also match that. If it's going to Mind, I'm quite happy to match that as well.
My word. And I actually didn't know the story you just. I didn't know what you just said there. So thanks for sharing that. That's quite important. Don't know what to say there with that. So let's move on, but thank you. Okay. Crafty Keeler. This is what was the first question she's dropped? This one is from Peter and Grumpy Old Man, and it's a question for you, sarcastic barman. Protecting the public is important and part of our justice system, but is the death penalty a tool of justice or a tool of vengeance?
I believe it's a tool of justice when used in the right circumstances. It can't be used as, I've gone out and shot one person, therefore I should get the death penalty. No, I've shot one person, I should go out and have mental help. I should have society try and take care of me, as well as being imprisoned, that I can then rejoin society as a productive member of it. I've gone out and I've killed 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people. Yes, I should be assessed first mentally, and there's one thing I did have it written down that there's certain things that I do think should be taken into account before a death penalty is added, and your mental stability and things is one of those. That if you think you're in the right mind and the doctor says, yeah, you just have no regard for life, that's something that should be taken into account with everything. I hope that makes sense. Makes sense in my head, but I'm out of wine, so.
DK, have you got a view on that yourself?
What was the question? Sorry.
So the original question, I'll just read out for you, was, do you think that the death penalty is a tool of justice or vengeance?
Vengeance as it currently stands, because we don't, in the US, they don't kill people straight away, as we were mentioning in the chat. I think they're sentenced to like a 4x4 prison cell, and then for like 10, 30, 20, 30 years, and then at the end they're like, oh, okay, it's your turn to die. And it's like, well, I don't know. I think that's wrong to do. So it's vengeance for the people. I'm not going to say it's the vengeance for the families of the victims, because I'm not a family of the victims. I don't want to go into that. But it's the vengeance of the state. And the reason they keep them in those rooms is because it pays the people who own the prisons. They get money out of it.
And I suppose it could almost be a debate on its own, that, couldn't it? The debate is vengeance or what's the word?
This is justice or vengeance.
Yeah, is vengeance something that is what's the word? Worthwhile? Is that? I mean, I know if somebody come into my house and let's say they killed my kids or whatever, I wouldn't just want to see them die. I would enjoy the moment that I saw the last breath come out of their mouth. But that's obviously because I'd be emotionally involved, etc. Is that right? Is it wrong? I suppose that's a whole debate in itself, isn't it?
I mean, as I said during the debate, I don't have a family. I'm not married. I don't have any kids. I don't know. It could change. So I'm always open to that.
Never again, and again, thank you, Crafty Keeler, for collecting these. Never again asks, and I'm not quite sure who this is to, so both have a stab at this. DK, you can go first. Do you have any idea how many people are employed and benefit from the US prison system to avoid helping anybody become better? Now, I know nothing about the US prison system, so my answer to that will be no. DK, have you got any comment on that?
I don't know how many people are employed to make sure help isn't reached to the prisoners, if that's the question. But I do know that it's a top-down structure in the US where everybody benefits, unless if you're not white, as long as you're white and you're in the prison industrial complex, you're going to benefit financially. Whether that's prison guards, the prison head officer person, whatever you call it, and police officers, the people working on their beats, everyone.
Oh, you've gone, mate. If you can hear us, we can't hear you anymore. There's been something wrong with your microphone there. While he's he's back.
I can hear him.
Sorry.
You just
say he didn't cut out for me.
He didn't cut out for you. You cut out for me. Well, apologies if people are listening on the stream and he didn't cut out, then I've just interrupted you. Maybe it's my headphones. Sorry, DK, you crack on. I apologise for interrupting you.
Yeah, I was just saying, I know someone who works in a US prison as a counsellor to prisoners, so I shouldn't say this, but that's not the majority of prisons. Everybody benefits unless you're a non-white person.
And
that was just my basic response there.
Brilliant. Just want to say thank you to Wade Watts, who's just said congratulations to both the debaters. In his super chat, his point of view is he could never agree with the death penalty if there was the slightest possibility of putting someone who's innocent to death, which I can totally understand. Let me go back to... did I ask both your opinions on that last question? Was there something one of you wanted to say to that?
Basically, almost to agree with DK, but I think society as a whole has a role to play, and how we use prison as a whole, that it shouldn't be a third party running a prison for the government. It should be the government running the prison. It should be in the government's best interest to have as few as people possible going into a prison and coming out of a prison to be productive members of society, not a prison thinking how many people can I squeeze into a smaller pace as possible with as few as guards as possible so I can make the most money as possible. That's not a good way to run a prison system. And fully agree with DK. It's probably a lot of the problems that we have are down to our prison systems.
Excellent. Crafty Keeler, another one. Thank you, Crafty. You're doing an absolutely brilliant job. This is from Misty, and this is for you, DK. She's saying, we executed a woman in Missouri, and this is very recent, isn't it? This is the last few days. We executed a woman in Missouri for premeditating and cutting a new mother's unborn baby out of her womb while the woman was still living. I think the woman died. The mother died, didn't she? And she stole the baby. She cut it out of somebody's womb and stole it. Horrific. How exactly do you rehab that?
Yeah, interesting question. What was the name? I was going to say interesting
Misty.
Question and then the name. Oh,
Misty.
Interesting question, Misty. Sorry. I read about that this week. And it was, I didn't know it was in Missouri, but I read about it, and she killed, was her name Bobby something? I read about it, and his heart goes out to the victims, and of course, but you can still rehabilitate that, because there was an example in the US as well, where a female prisoner was thinking about murdering from not a female prisoner, sorry, a female like child, so a little girl. She started cutting up dolls and killing animals and insects, which is a well-known take for serial killers. And the family got the doctors involved, who then got psychologists involved, and she was adopted by a psychologist as well, who then shied her away from their life.
Oh, you've cut out for me again there, mate.
It can be done. I'm not saying how, because I'm not a flat earther. I'm not gonna say, you know, this is done when I'm not having any expertise in the matter. So I'm not gonna say how. I'm just saying it can be done. For how, you'll need to speak to some psychologist somewhere.
Right, am I having problems with my headphones? Did anyone cut out then, or was that just me? Sarcastic Barman, I can't hear a word you're saying there. Are you on mute?
No, I was on mute. I'm very
Oh,
sorry.
you were on mute? It's not my headphones.
Yeah. But DK did cut out then for a couple of seconds. Sorry.
Oh, my word. Right, oh, brilliant,
My
brilliant.
microphone fell off the stand and I forgot I muted myself to put it back on.
Go on, mate. Have you got anything you want to add to that before I get the next question?
With that sort of circumstances, I would say the best help would be mental health. Yes, it's a horrible, atrocious crime, but it still needs to be addressed by society as a whole before any sort of judgment is passed. That there is obviously mental instability there, and that's all I'll say on that one.
Okay, next question. Again, Crafty Keeler, thank you for fishing these out. And if you haven't subscribed to Crafty Keeler, a fascinating channel. She looks into the psychology and the social aspects of conspiracy theories, something that I think is a really, really important thing. So you can see the spelling of her name in the chat. Go and check her channel out. Really, really worthwhile. But I'm sure you all know who she is anyway. She says, Facty asks, should the death penalty be a deterrent for other people more than a punishment for the crime? So is it more important as a deterrent or as a punishment? And I guess that's to both of you. DK, do you want to take that one first, mate?
He's back.
Oh, is he gone again?
He dropped and then he's back.
I'm
Oh,
back.
there he is. Yeah.
My AirPods, they did something. They had a kerfuffle. I missed everything after after I stopped speaking. I didn't hear anything. So
Oh, it's all right.
anything.
Don't worry about it, mate. It was only me talking, and anything I say can be instantly dismissed. I just talk. I just waffle. So this question is for both of you, but I'll let you go first on this one, mate. Facty has asked, should the death penalty be a deterrent rather than a punishment? That was her question. What's your reaction to that? Oh, obviously, it's going to be neither for you, but just wonder what you thought of the question.
Well, interesting question, but deterrent doesn't work, so it shouldn't be used as a deterrent. It reminds me of a certain politician who said it on Question Time, and she got laughed at because it didn't work. It doesn't work. Deterrents don't work. We've seen it in the Prohibition era. We've seen it in the drugs policy that the UK and US have. They never work. So we should work towards having something else that does work, like rehabilitation.
I suppose if you are gonna, I get the side of the argument that if you are gonna kill someone, you're probably gonna think you're gonna get away with it. I don't think anybody's planning to get caught, and if they are, obviously, I suppose they don't care of the consequences. So I get your opinion on that. Sarcastic Barman, what's your opinion on that?
A deterrent, but also a freedom from the torture of being locked up. I can fully agree that our prison systems aren't working, hence why murderers, when released, are going out murdering again, which shows we're not rehabilitating in our prisons and we're not deterring people from going to our prisons because they're going out and doing the same shit again. So everything needs overhauling before we would bring in a death penalty. But yeah, it's not fair to lock someone up, but it's also not fair to kill them. We've got to draw the line somewhere, and I think that killing them would be better than locking them up and forcing them to go mental in a cell.
Brilliant. Crafty Keeler again collected one from Ivy Gentry, who has previously asked, and this is for you, DK. It says, sorry, Ivy Gentry for DK. Not okay with his money being used to kill, but are you okay with your money being used to torture people? So essentially, if we're not going to kill them, keeping them in life imprisonment is a form of torture. Is that okay? Is that better than putting them out of the misery?
Don't know. I mean, obviously, killing them is, I think, bad. We shouldn't kill people, and I don't think we should torture people. But I don't know the scale of which is worse, and why don't we just kill them? I don't know. I'm not okay with torture. That I would say. I'm still ashamed that my money, my tax money, still goes towards 4x4 cells. Well, I don't know if it's 4x4 in the UK, but I know there's a room where the quote unquote dangerous criminal get locked up in. I'm not comfortable with that either. I wouldn't be okay with it. I don't know how to change it. I'm just saying I'm not okay with it, and it should be changed.
So a change is needed, but you're not sure how that change should come about, which is fair enough. Does that make sense?
The change should be towards rehabilitation. I'm not sure how that change should be introduced because, again, I'm not an expert in policies.
No, brilliant. Dan, have you got anything that you want to add to that?
To point out, you said about the cell size, because I mentioned cell size earlier. I'd point out that the cell that Robert Maulsley in the UK is in, which is a 5.5 by 4.5 metre room, is actually a double-sized standard UK cell. So he's in a twice the size as normal because he's in there 23 hours a day. In the UK, most prisoners aren't locked up for 23 hours a day. I can't remember the rest of the question now. Sorry, I had it here. I wrote it down. And I do think that is torture to lock someone up like that. We should be doing more. Is my basic narrative. We should be doing more, but I believe also the death penalty is there for people who, if you're going to say they're going to be locked up forever, that's unfair.
So there's so many debates that can spin off this, and I think even in the side chat tonight, I may have come close to setting one up, because you have to be able to ask the question: can everybody be rehabilitated? I don't know. I don't know, but can everybody? And if they can, is the prison system set up to allow that to happen? And I think I may have managed to set up a debate about that, actually, about the potential for the prison system to rehabilitate people. And I'm looking forward to that. This has been interesting chat. But the next question from Dutch Heretic, and again, thank you, Crafty Keeler, for this. Why don't I hear talking about the innocent people executed after a shitty trial? Either one of you for that.
I'll take it first. D, take the last one. Yes, that is a problem. There are appeal processes in place for people who do get a life sentence. I do feel, though, with modern day DNA practices, CCTV information that may be in place, that we are getting to the point where our reasonable doubt now is a lot better than, say, 30, 40 years ago. Well, 50 odd years ago, that we can say, yeah, we've got DNA evidence, we've got your fingerprints on this murder weapon, we've got from one strand of hair, we've got your DNA here, we've got a partial thumbprint on the murder weapon, which matches your partial thumbprint, but also your drop of blood on the end of it or something. It's becoming much easier to rule on a case, if you get my meaning, that our technology is advancing quicker than our legal system is allowing for. Yes, this should all be taken and looked at more deeply, and everything should be double tested and things like that, just to be sure. But I think the procedures are starting to get there now that we can be quite certain of things if DNA is involved.
DK, any opinion on that one?
I would just wanted to say, I think I mentioned that in the beginning, that there's, like, you can't bring back, like, once you've killed someone and then later down the line, because technology is evolving super fast, you can't bring them back. I mean, I'm 28. I still remember using, like, a Microsoft XP. Like, I'm that old. So, like, it's evolved. It'll keep evolving. I remember when the first iPhone came out, everybody was like, oh, iPhone. And now it's like, yeah, whatever. It's like, I'm more. So, if technology is always evolving, and there'll always be technology to eradicate guilt or prove guilt. either way.
Mhm.
So I don't think we should kill people or torture them. But there should be a middle ground, but I don't know what that is.
And I suppose it's always going to be difficult to come up with the perfect solution, isn't it? Because it's never going to be black and white, is it? It's never going to be black and white. I mean, some people, in my mind, just the world would be better off if there was a bullet in the head and that's it, gone, you know? But how can you set a criteria for, you know, it's very difficult. You know, clearly people who are... Anyway, it's not my debate, so I'll stay on.
The appeal processes still have to be there. There still has to be the chance, because there is always going to be that 1% of like doubt. This is why we have a jury, and people have to look at it and take beyond reasonable doubt. If you're going to do this thing, you have to have as much information presented to you as possible to say yes, but you still have to allow time for a jury figure. I think in my page that I wrote here, I think I wrote a 1 year from sentencing. So obviously you're going to have the trial, you're going to have the jury and give the verdict. Sentence is going to be after that. A full year for any new evidence. No matter what that evidence is, a new trial should take place, in my opinion, to present that new evidence. And this can go on and on. I'm happy for it to go on and on, for the simple fact that I think these people deserve to... We need to know beyond the reasonable doubt. But at the same point, we need to show an example that, yes, if something happens, you have the chance to appeal this, but you're still going to be screwed if the evidence is there. And I think a lot of it comes down to evidence.
Crafty Keeler.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, DK. Go on, mate.
I was just going to get on, just add a little bit. I remember listening to the podcast Serial when it first came out, and they talked about that guy who was in prison. He's still in prison. He was a Muslim guy in prison for killing his classmate. And this podcast provided a tremendous amount of evidence whereby he shouldn't be in prison. Not a suspect. He could probably still be a suspect, but he shouldn't be in prison. But yet he's still in prison. So it doesn't always work like that.
No.
Again, that's a US prison system story that needs overhauling. And I agree, it does need overhauling. And just getting back to what I said about seeing the increase of people calling for death penalties after 7/7, how we eradicate the racial biases that will increase. Because when you're inside a court, the public aren't allowed there. There are no cameras, it's just the jury, the judge, and then the defendants and lawyers. It'll never get out until the trial is over. So if a person is found guilty, then the public would be like, right, that's the death penalty. Because the sentence isn't immediate, I don't think. No. But if he's found innocent, and they can't tell you why, because you can't discuss the course after the trial, or things might happen inside the trial where you can't discuss. Can't be Tony Robinson and wait outside the court and film it. You can't do that. So how we reach that middle ground, I don't know, but we should.
I think that's how we said before, that society needs to change before we can implement any changes within the prison system itself.
Brilliant. Couple more questions, because I know we said we were looking at around about 6:20 finish, so we'll just do a couple more. I've got another one from Crafty Keeler via James. Adrian Clark's got a question. I will get your question, Adrian, definitely. So Crafty Keeler from James says, what about, and this is for you, Sarcastic Barman, what about the people they... Oh, I've done that one, haven't I? What about the people they enjoy murdering?
No, you haven't.
But now you want to help... Oh, have I not done that one? Right, sorry. No. Okay. So, what about the people they enjoy torturing and murdering? They deserved help, but now you want to help the psycho murderer. I'm assuming what he means by helping them means put them out of the misery, or like, I'm assuming that. James, correct me if I'm wrong. What do you think of that?
Yes. But first, they should have help in a psychological point of view. Before they stand trial, they should be fully looked at, equivalated, have a sort of understanding of where they stand on the mental spectrum, how mentally damaged and things they are, whether they deserve to be able to stand trial for their crimes. That is going to be the first step in anything. But if it's termed that there's simply a psychopath and there is nothing we can do, or whatever verdict of the mental psychologist, I'm not a mental psychologist, I can't fully thingy on this, that they stand trial, the verdict passed is the verdict passed. But yeah, I don't think it's fair to lock someone up in a small room for 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 odd years. So, I mean, most of us get married for long enough, and that's bad enough.
Cool. Well, yeah, I know. I can't say anything because my wife might be watching. It's a pleasure. It's not a life sentence, mate. It's a pleasure. Surely, it's. My
wife's not giving me evils.
It's great not to be able to do any of the things that we really used to love doing. I'm kidding. Am I? Anyway, let's. No, I am kidding, of course, because my wife will kill me otherwise. So let's find the next question. Adrian Clark's got a question, and then Crafty does say that there's a question for each of you still left to answer. So we'll get this. But Adrian Clark has, I think he's trying to pick you up, Sarcastic Barman, on some figures that you dropped before. He says, so in Nuneaton alone, there were 34 people jailed between January and May this year for murder, rape and manslaughter. Since 1960, the murder rates have gone up by at least 200 per year. Now, I can't remember the exact figure you said before. I can't remember what that's in contradiction to.
11.4 homicides per million people for the UK during the year ending March 2019. A similar rate to the previous 2 years. The number of homicides increased from around 300 per year in the early 1960s to over 700 per year in the early years of this century. And yes, murder rates in the UK are going up, and that's from the ons.gov.uk/articles/year ending March 2019. And yeah, murder rates are going up in the UK at a horrendous rate. But again, I think that's a society thing, that we're not being where we should be on a society to look after people, and people are thinking murder is a thing that they can do in crimes, whether it be with knives or gang related or guns or in other circumstances. It's not a society we should be promoting, and it's more of a society that we should be trying to move away from.
So Adrian's saying,
yes, I still want to kill people.
No, I know nothing about these stats. Adrian's saying 200 a year it's gone up by since the 1960s. Does that ring true? Is that in contradiction to what you said, or is that the same?
The number I said, the number of homicides has increased around 300 a year in the early 60s to over 700 a year now. So it's actually gone up by 400 is the figure I've got, not 200. So it's gone up even more than he's saying.
Right. Cool. And let me sorry, I've just lost my place in the chat there. Apologise. Right, so Crafty Keeler has another question left for each of you, and then one for both of you, I think. And then we'll call it a day. Crafty Keeler, so I think this is Crafty Keeler's question to you, Sarcastic Barman. How do you prevent abuses or pressure of the death penalty for monetary, political or religious reasons if the option exists, e.g. Central Park 5 or Guildford 4?
I think this comes down to the same again as very similar to the American death penalty has now. You need your two lawyers. There needs to be an extra check on the jury in place. The DNA figures have to be exact. And if there is any sort of doubt in the minds of the jury figures or the judge or anyone, it should be brought forward. If there's any thing that doesn't add up perfectly, the death penalty should be taken off the table. You've got to have the point where it's beyond a reasonable doubt. You've got to have the DNA evidence there and things like that, because we're going back with things like the Guildford 4 to a time where the DNA wasn't the same as we have now. The CCTV information wasn't the same as we had now, especially somewhere in the UK where CCTV is redonk. And we can move to a sort of position where, as horrible as it is, the more 1984 we become, the more certain we can become on a crime. And it's a horrible world to live in, that having more cameras is a good thing, but it's also a bad thing for our own personal freedoms. But if we have nothing to worry about because we've not done anything, it's also not a bad thing. It's a spiral. It is. I will fully admit it's a spiral, and we've lost DK. Damn it.
Has DK Oh, he's. I think he was having back
he's
problems.
back.
Oh, he's back. Cool. So the next question is going to be for you, DK. Now you're back. Jim Broughton has, and hello, Jim. Good to see you here again. He's. Oh, I'm getting a bit of echo there. He's brought up a good point here. He says it's worth pointing out that the way figures are reported has changed. Previously, multiple murders by one person were classified as one, whereas now it's individual. And I had no idea about that. So that's a really good point. DK, the next question is for you, buddy. If there is no chance for rehabilitation and reintegration into society, how should these offenders be dealt with since the prison system doesn't work?
Overhaul the prison system. Again, I don't know how. I know what to do. I don't know how to do it. As in, I know the Earth is a globe. I just can't prove it scientifically. I just seen it. I know what to do, and what is to overhaul the prison system from the top down and the bottom up. Overall, it needs to be done. Whether that brings in laws that people don't like, it's usually, I think, like I said, sticking to the UK, because that's where I live, a lot of people just want the death penalty so they can see black and brown boys die.
So it's more of a, you think it's there's a racial spin on it
in the UK at the very least, because every time I've said, what about these white people that have done the exact same crime? They're like, yeah, but disproportionately it's just brown Muslims who want to kill and murder and rape people.
I mean, from my point of view, I'd always judge it on the crime. You know, I'd look at I'd love to have a piece of paper without even a name on, you know, telling me what the crimes are, and I would judge. You know, it certainly for me individually, skin color or culture or anything wouldn't come into it. Why are you sarcastic, Barman?
It's the same as I said before, that prisoners, people on trial and things like that, it should just be a number or something like that. We shouldn't see them in court to try and rule out that racial bias, because racial bias is a thing. Hopefully we become a society where one day it isn't, but at the moment it is. But agree and disagree that society needs to change first, then we overhaul the prison system to try and do what we can for people who do go to prison, and for people who murder once, either in a fit of rage. Say I caught my wife in bed with another man, I'd stab the feck out of him. But then that's a crime of passion. That doesn't warrant a full life sentence, and hopefully I can be rehabilitated to show that my actions were wrong, even though I'm going to sit there saying, no, it's fucking right and I should have stabbed them both. But there should be someone there to help look after people, help care for people, help people realise what they've done wrong, to rehabilitate them for society, and then reintroduce them to society after things have been checked through. They've been reevaluated several times to make sure they're not a danger again. Because the last thing we want to do is be the sort of country that releases, say, 30-odd people who then go out to murder another 30-odd people after murdering 30-odd people to start with. Because that doesn't obviously work.
Fantastic. There is a question from Crafty Keeler from Adrian Clark saying, why am I getting ads on a live stream? And I'm going to hold my hand up here. This is why Creaky is amazing. There's a little button on YouTube Studio and it says insert ad, right? And I've been using that today because I honestly thought what that meant was when you click that insert ad, when it renders and it's live, that is the point where an ad appears. I'm guessing that every time I've hit that, everyone who's watching has had to watch an ad, and I really apologise for that. Is that what I've done? Is that what that button's for? Because I have no idea.
I haven't done live streams since I've been monetized, so I'm not too sure. But obviously, I avoid midstream adverts because they do my nutting.
Well, I didn't know it was going to go live. If I've been clicking that and you've been watching an advert every time I've clicked it, I'm so sorry. I genuinely apologise. I honestly thought that would be where it placed the ad when the video had rendered and it was up after the live stream. I just, rather than going into YouTube Studio afterwards. So that is all my fault, and I totally apologise for it. Sorry, guys. Okay, I think we're done. DK, I will just get a last sort of speech from you. And same from Sarcastic Barman. And please, I've linked both your channel and the Twitter handle for you, DK, in the description. Feel free to show yourself out. DK, what do you want to say to finish with?
Oh, DK?
Excellent.
I
No, I think.
connected.
Oh, he's there. He's back again.
My AirPods are a shame. I don't know. They're not working.
No worries, mate. But
New ones.
you're back, mate. You got 2 minutes to say whatever you want to say, and then I'll pass over to Barman, and we're done. But listen, thank you for both for doing this. Off you go, mate.
I think I just wanted to thank you. It's been an honor to be on your channel. To be honest, although I would like to apologize. Yesterday I watched your Baldy Catz. Can you convince the flat earther if you're wrong? And I fell asleep like 10 minutes.
It was boring, wasn't it?
I was looking forward to it all day, and then I'd been doing things, and then I was like watching in bed, had all my snacks and everything, and then I woke up, and then it was still playing, and it finished, and I was like, I have to watch that again now. So I would like to apologize, but thank you for having me on. Thank you to Dan for having me on as well. I've subscribed to your channel, everybody's channel. The squad, as I like to call Baldy Catz and Simon, Dan, and Creaky, are now the squad. So I've subscribed to everything. I'm in the Discord. And also, please, I do a lot of climate posting and debunking climate deniers because they really piss me off. Like, fuck off. So that's on Twitter. You can follow me there. I just post like sciences, like here's nature, here's peanuts, read it and weep. And you can follow me on Snapchat where all the graphics are as well. So it's really boring. And all my personal stuff is on my Snapchat. It's just D, the letter D, and then the full stop, and then Kashmiri. Follow that Snapchat and be there. And yeah, just follow.
Well, I'll get that link in the description as well if you email it me, but your Twitter handle is in the description for people to follow. Thank you, mate, for coming on. And I do agree. I would even fall asleep watching the video that I released yesterday. It was like watching paint dry, but it was there for a purpose. But yeah, it was boring. Sarcastic Barman, do you want to close out the show, mate?
I really enjoyed that. DK, thank you very much for a good chat, a nice back and forth. Really, really enjoyed. I'm unfortunately out of wine now, so that's a bit of a downer. Am I allowed to show myself?
Yeah, of course you are, mate. Yeah, your channel's linked in the description, yeah. And you're well worth a subscription.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go and play poker in about an hour and 15 minutes time with really bad jokes on the second half on the EIE network. So I'm really looking forward to that. Anyone wants to come and watch that, you're more than welcome. There'll probably be a couple of seats at the table as well. And I'm doing something else. What am I doing? I'm with Rider of Dinosaurs on Tuesday at 9 p.m. GMT. So another really good stream. I'm streaming out everywhere at the moment. But thank you to you, Baldy Catz, for hosting all this. It was really enjoyable. DK, once again, thank you very much for being such a gentleman on all of this. I don't think either of us are right. I don't think either of us are wrong. It's a discussion that takes a lot more than just us and society as a whole to address. But thank you.
Right, well, I will say goodbye to you both off air. Thank you for everybody who has watched. And for those who are watching, Wednesday coming up is the rematch between myself and Broomy, who was a flat earther, a new flat earther that I had a nice civil conversation with a good few months ago now. And it was nice and civil. But it's now the rematch because I didn't convince him that he might be wrong. And he's now a full-on flat earther. And I shall be debating him on Wednesday. We have another debate next Sunday because, again, I can't use a calendar. And then Plain or Walk is coming on to debate white privilege. Does it exist? Does it not? With somebody else. It's looking to be a good 2021. But thank you all for coming. I'm going to end the stream now. See if I can. And I'll say goodbye to these two off air. But bye, everyone. Oh, I'm going to say it's not finished yet. Thank you, Crafty Keeler, for all the help you've done. Let me hit end.